Hey, I'm Nathan. I'm 42, served in the 82nd Airborne, and let me tell you something I never thought I'd say. My 13-year marriage ended while I was deployed overseas. And no, not in some dramatic phone call or heartbreaking letter. It was an email. Yeah, an email. I was sitting on my cot in Kandahar, halfway through a 12-hour shift in 115-degree heat, and I logged in to check messages from home. One new email from my wife, Becky. Subject line: "Let's be adults about this." That was already a bad sign. I opened it, and all it said was she'd filed the papers, moved in her new boyfriend Jeremy, and had already cleared out our bank account. There was even a PDF attached, like it was a business transaction, like I was just some name on a list she needed to erase. I stared at it for a good 5 minutes. You ever have one of those moments where time just stops, like you're frozen, but everything else keeps moving? That was me. But I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I didn't even respond, really. I just typed one word back. Understood. Then I shut the laptop, grabbed my gear, and got back to work. Because when you're on deployment, you don't have the luxury to fall apart, not even when your whole damn life back home is falling apart without you. That day in Kandahar was like any other. Dust in the air, heat pressing down on you like a physical weight. The base was busy, people moving fast but focused. I'd just finished my morning rotation, doing a maintenance check on our comms equipment. My boots were covered in red sand, my throat dry as paper. I was looking forward to 5 quiet minutes in the corner of the tent with a protein bar in my inbox. Instead, I got a gut punch in the form of an email. Life on deployment doesn't stop for personal crises. You can't curl up in a ball or storm out of the room. You've got people counting on you. So even after I got the email, the one that ended my marriage, I had to strap my gear back on and head into briefing. I remember sitting across from my commanding officer, nodding along as he went over the recon schedule, pretending like my life wasn't on fire. It was like living in a split reality. One part of me was a soldier, the other was a man realizing his entire home life had been erased like it never existed. Becky and I met back in 2010 at a buddy's barbecue. I was home between tours, crashing with my friend Jason for a few weeks. She was this bright, confident girl, studying nursing, full of opinions and laughter. She wasn't like anyone I'd dated before. Blunt, funny, kind of wild. I liked that. We hit it off, fast. 8 months later, we got married. Maybe too fast looking back. But at the time, it felt right. The early years were solid. She used to say she was proud of what I did, even though I could tell she never really understood it. Her dad was a bank manager, her brother a pharmacist. Military life wasn't in her world. Still, she played the role of the supportive wife pretty well. When I deployed, she kept things running at home, paid bills, mowed the lawn, sent care packages. I appreciated that. But things started shifting around year 10. It wasn't overnight. It was slow, subtle. She started staying later at work. She was working admin at a dental clinic by then. Said she was catching up on calls. She started going to the gym more, but I never saw any workout clothes in the laundry. New clothes started showing up in the closet. Her phone was always locked, always face down. She stopped asking about my day, stopped telling me about hers. Did I accuse her? Number, that's not who I am. I've seen what paranoia does to people. Instead, I watched, I paid attention, and most importantly, I prepared. Not because I was certain, but because my gut was screaming at me. And in the Army, you learn fast. Trust your gut or regret it later. There were times early on that felt like something out of a movie. Becky would leave sticky notes in my gear bags with cheesy jokes. We used to binge shows together, cook late-night meals, even talk about adopting a dog. She had this habit of squeezing my hand twice whenever she was nervous. I loved that. It made her feel real, present. But somewhere along the way, that stopped. The sticky notes disappeared. The texts got shorter. She started hanging out with friends from work I'd never met. I told myself she was just stressed, maybe overwhelmed. I offered to cut one deployment short, take some leave, just to reset things. She brushed it off. "We're fine," she said. "You're overthinking again." But deep down, I knew I wasn't. She was detaching, pulling herself out of our marriage one excuse at a time. A few days after that first email, I was still in a daze. You know how some guys throw stuff or start drinking or get into fights? That wasn't me. I just got really, really quiet. Even my bunkmate Wilson noticed. He asked if I was all right while he was reading some spy thriller. I just said, "Yeah, just some stuff back home." And that was it. Military guys, we know when not to push. But truth? That email messed me up. Not because I didn't see it coming, but because of how cold it was. 3 sentences, after 13 years, like we'd never shared a life, never built a home, never loved each other. It didn't feel like heartbreak. It felt like betrayal with a receipt. And to top it all off, I found out from a buddy back home that she'd already posted pictures on Facebook, them at the lake, him wearing my hoodie. She even changed her relationship status before she told me. Imagine seeing your life collapse in real time from halfway across the world. Here's the thing. While she thought she was being slick, I'd already started laying the groundwork. I'm not stupid. I might not have said anything, but I'd noticed things changing long before that email. So I'd rented a small storage unit across town before I left, took all my important documents, birth certificate, house deed, my military benefits paperwork, and locked them up. I opened a new bank account too, at a different bank she didn't use, and started quietly sending part of my paycheck there. Not a huge chunk, just enough to have something if things went sideways. She didn't notice. She never asked. She was too busy living her new life while I packed for war. I also scanned every piece of paperwork we had, digital backups of everything. And the house? It was in my name only. VA loan. I'd added her to the deed years ago, sure, because that's what married couples do. But the loan itself? All mine. She had no idea what she was about to try and steal. I didn't plan revenge. I planned protection. Because in this life, especially in the military, you learn to stay 2 steps ahead, or you get blindsided. One night, maybe 2 weeks after the email, I was sitting in the mess hall, eating some sad-looking meatloaf when my phone buzzed. It was a notification from our bank, another withdrawal. $88,500, gone, poof, vanished. That was everything left. Our savings, college fund, emergency cushion, all of it. I didn't even flinch. I just put down my fork, opened the banking app, and stared. Joint account, $22.37. I kid you not, 22 damn dollars. That night, I called the bank from a satellite phone station. Had to wait in line for 40 minutes behind a guy arguing with his girlfriend. Finally got through. And yeah, it was all legit. She'd been moving money slowly, bit by bit, for weeks. Probably thought she was being clever. She wasn't clever, she was sloppy and greedy. That night, I didn't sleep. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling of my bunk, thinking, planning, making lists in my head. This wasn't about emotions anymore. This was about making sure she didn't take one more thing from me. I remember staring at that $22.37 balance and feeling something crack inside, not in a loud way. Quiet, cold, like ice spreading under the surface. That wasn't just money. That was years of discipline, sacrifice. That was the life I thought we were building. And the worst part? I had to keep it all to myself. I couldn't call and vent, couldn't scream into the void. The guys around me were dealing with their own battles, physical and mental. We didn't dump personal drama on each other. We carried it, silently. Around midnight, I remembered something important. Our home security system. When we'd installed it, I made sure it had cloud backup and remote login. Guess who still had access? This guy. I pulled out my laptop and logged in. And there they were. Video after video. Some guy, mid-30s, looked like a used car salesman, walking my dog, sitting on my couch, wearing my clothes, using my damn coffee mug. He was home. And Becky? She was smiling like she'd won the lottery. I didn't get angry. Something colder settled in. Like I flipped a switch. I opened my notes app and made a list. Call James, my old Army buddy turned lawyer, check VA loan terms, research local property laws, back up security footage, stay quiet. Because the one thing Becky forgot when she was playing house with Jeremy, she married a man who planned missions for a living. I wasn't about to go down without a playbook. I called James the next morning. He was stationed with me years ago. Now he was a full-time lawyer back in the States. We hadn't spoken in a bit, but I knew I could trust him. We caught up briefly, then I laid everything out. He didn't even hesitate, said he'd start digging immediately. 2 days later, he sent me an encrypted message. Call me. Urgent. When I did, his tone was dead serious. Nathan, she forged your signature on a mortgage refinance, pulled $330,000 in equity from your house, and she listed Jeremy as a co-applicant. I was quiet for a long time. You okay? He asked. Yeah, I said. I just needed to hear it out loud. From there, we filed fraud reports, contacted the bank that issued the loan, and froze all financial movements related to the property. James also got in touch with a bank fraud investigator and began working on a formal motion to void the refinance based on forgery. I handed him every shred of evidence, screenshots, bank statements, video footage, everything. I also reported it to the military legal assistance office. They couldn't act on her directly, but they flagged my pension and ensured nothing would be touched without my approval. At this point, I was done being the quiet guy. Now it was about precision, cold, calculated moves. It didn't take long. The bank started asking questions. Jeremy started sweating. Becky texted me out of nowhere. We need to talk. The bank is saying crazy stuff. What did you do? I didn't respond. Then James called with something big. Turns out Jeremy had a history. He and a guy named Daniel Spencer, some real estate agent, had done this before. 3 other women, all military wives, all tricked into refinancing, selling fast and watching their equity disappear. Jeremy got a cut each time. This wasn't just betrayal. This was organized fraud. We took it to the FBI. Turns out they were already watching Spencer. My case helped tie it together. 1 week later, Jeremy got pulled over driving my truck on a suspended license. They impounded it. In the glove box, prescription pads stolen from the dental office Becky worked at. I didn't even blink, just sent another file to James. And then one night, as I watched a security feed of Spencer and Jeremy giving a house tour to a potential buyer, FBI agents rolled up and arrested them. On camera, in my living room. Becky showed up while they were still hauling out documents. She looked lost, panicked. Her world had just cracked open. The moment they put Jeremy in cuffs, it felt like the oxygen came back into the room. I wasn't there in person, but I watched it happen live on the security feed. He looked completely blindsided, like no one had ever told him actions had consequences. Spencer tried to talk his way out of it, waving his arms, pointing at the FBI badge like it was a mistake. Becky pulled up 5 minutes after the arrest. She walked up the front steps, coffee in hand, like it was just another day. When she saw the flashing lights and agents carrying boxes from our house, she stopped dead. You could see it in her face. Her little scheme wasn't a secret anymore. I got a call from James minutes later. We got them all on tape, he said. Wire fraud, conspiracy, forgery, they're cooked. I should have felt triumph, but it was more like a heavy breath I'd been holding finally released. I just nodded and went outside, sat on a bench near the barracks, and stared up at the sky. Kandahar's sun beating down. For the first time in months, I felt calm. Becky eventually tried to talk to me, left voicemails, sent texts. I didn't know what he was doing. I didn't mean to hurt you. Maybe she didn't, but she did. She signed a confession admitting to forging my signature. She gave up any rights to the house or my military pension. I agreed not to press criminal charges, mostly because the feds had bigger fish to fry. Jeremy got 8 years in federal prison. Spencer got 12. Turns out there were 11 families they'd done this to. My case helped connect the dots. The divorce finalized quietly. Clean break, no fault. On paper, anyway. I got the house, my pension, and peace of mind. The bank reversed the refinance, and I blocked her number for good. She went back to Oregon, I think, working another desk job. Last I heard, she was living in a rental with no dog, no man, and a bunch of debt. It wasn't revenge. It was justice. The fallout came fast. The feds raided Spencer's office. Jeremy's name was all over the paperwork. Becky was interviewed for hours. She called me again. Voicemail this time. Her voice cracked halfway through. I didn't mean for this to happen. I didn't know what he was really doing. I thought you were done with me. It was weird hearing that, like she was the one who felt abandoned, like I hadn't spent 13 years building a life with her while she bailed at the first taste of loneliness. The FBI wasn't sure what to do with her at first. She had signed the documents, but the prescription pads in the truck, the bank transfers, the forged signature, it all pointed to Jeremy running the show. Eventually, she agreed to testify. Not in court, but in writing. She turned over emails, texts, and records that showed how Jeremy manipulated her. Maybe it was true. Maybe she really didn't know the full extent, but even if she didn't, she still let it happen. I asked James if I should press charges against her. He told me, "You've already won. Don't tie your peace to her punishment." That stuck with me, so I let it go. Not for her, for me. After all that, I left the Army. 20 years was enough. I'd given everything. Now it was time to rebuild. I bought a small cabin just outside Missoula, Montana. 2 bedrooms, a quiet creek out back, and more stars than I'd seen in a decade. Got myself a German shepherd named Scout. He's loyal. Doesn't talk back. Best roommate I've ever had. Started doing carpentry, fixing furniture, cutting wood. Nothing fancy, but it kept my hands busy and my mind clear. The military pension covered the rest. I didn't need much. Some nights I'd sit on the porch with a beer, listening to the water run. Peace, real peace. Not silence filled with anger, but actual, genuine quiet. The kind you earn. One day, I got a letter from a Navy wife in Texas. Said the FBI gave her my name. "You don't know me," she wrote, "but you saved our family." I pinned it to my fridge. It's still there. I never set out to be a hero. I just didn't want to get walked on. Life in Montana was slow, and that's exactly what I needed. My mornings started with Scout barking at squirrels and the smell of pine sap in the air. I fixed up the cabin with my own hands. New deck, replaced the roof, even carved a bench out back overlooking the stream. There's something about working with wood that feels honest. Every nail, every cut, you see your progress. You don't question what's real. Scout became my shadow. Whether I was chopping wood or just sitting on the porch with a coffee, he was there. Loyal in a way most people aren't. Sometimes we'd go hiking for hours, no destination, just silence and trees. I found parts of myself I hadn't realized were missing. That letter from the Navy wife? I read it every time I started to feel bitter. She wrote about how Jeremy had tried the same scam on her while her husband was stationed in Bahrain. How because of the case I helped build, the FBI warned her in time. "You saved our home," she wrote. It wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about making sure no one else had to go through it. Every now and then, I think about the life I used to have, the man I used to be, the house, the marriage, the trust. And I'm sad. Not because I miss her, but because I ignored my gut for too long. But that's behind me now. I've got my own land, my own dog, my own name, unshaken. I tell people sometimes, I didn't fight to get revenge. I fought to keep what was mine. And in the end, I got it. Every last piece, not through yelling, not through violence, but through discipline, planning, and keeping my mouth shut until it was time to speak. If you're ever in a storm like that, just remember, you don't have to scream to win. Sometimes the quietest ones end up with the loudest victories. The truth is, betrayal doesn't always show up with flashing signs. Sometimes it sneaks in slowly, through late-night texts, new gym routines, unanswered questions. Looking back, I ignored the signs because I didn't want to believe someone I loved could treat me like I was disposable. But the military taught me something valuable. When the mission goes south, you don't panic. You adapt. You regroup. You push forward. I didn't scream. I didn't burn it all down. I just watched, collected, planned, and in the end, when it all unraveled, I was ready. That's what I want people to remember from this story. Not that I got revenge, but that I didn't let the betrayal define me. I rebuilt, stronger, smarter, quieter. And now I live on my terms. If you're going through something like this, hear me. Stay calm. Think smart. Let their lies collapse under the weight of their own greed. And when it's over, you'll still be standing. And they'll wonder how you never broke. Every man who's been burned like this learns something about people, about trust, about survival. You start to realize that being the calm one isn't weakness, it's strength. While others react, you prepare. While others explode, you plan. That mindset doesn't just win battles overseas, it protects you at home. Sometimes I sit with Scout by the fire pit and think about what might have happened if I hadn't prepared, if I'd just trusted blindly, if I'd walked into that trap without a backup plan. And honestly, I don't think I'd have made it. To anyone listening, here's my last piece of advice. Silence can be powerful. Planning can be louder than any argument, and the best revenge isn't shouting, it's peace. It's the life they said you'd never rebuild, built better, brick by brick, without them.